Greetings, friends. You are listening to We Own This Town Music, the podcast for showcasing new and notable tracks from Nashville and surrounding areas. I'm your host, Michael Eads, and this is volume 316. As you may have noticed from the title of the episode, we've got another special one for you. Jane and Ian from the band Twen joined me in the studio for a track-by-track discussion about their new album, One Stop Shop. I am very grateful for the amount of time they spent gabbing with me, and honestly, I'm grateful that they made the album. It is incredibly good and very different for what you'd think of coming out of Nashville. We should all be proud to call Twen a local band. If you are listening to this on Wednesday, September 21st, you can see Twen at Grimey's, performing live at 5 p.m. Pretty good timing on this episode, huh? Before we dive into that conversation, I do want to give many thanks to Mary Mancini for joining me on the last episode and playing a bunch of music from the Lucy's Record Shop days. If you weren't at the 30th anniversary show that happened last Sunday, you missed out. Everyone involved with putting that together did a stellar job. If you aren't listening to the Lucy's Record Shop podcast, you are actively missing out. So make sure you go subscribe to that. Okay, let's eschew all of this stuff here at the top. You know all the good stuff about We Own This Town Music. Let's just get right into our conversation. Here it is, my chat with Jane and Ian of Twen. Today I'm joined in the studio by Twen. This is Jane Fitzsimmons and Ian Jones sitting here with me. They just recently released One Stop Shop, a record that I literally cannot stop listening to. I absolutely love it. And I'm also really blown away by everything around it. The marketing around it, the artwork around it, everything is just like phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it sounds like I'm gushing because they're sitting in front of me, but honestly, I've told strangers this. It's just a great record. Fantastic. Everything about it. So I really just wanted to have you come in and talk to me about Twen. Because I think I saw you at the 5 spot I don't know, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and was like, right. Shit, this band is awesome. Okay. And then you got signed, I think, and put out a bunch of rad videos and a rad album.
Correct.
And then a pandemic happened.
Yeah, correct.
Casual pandemic happened. And then this new record came out, and it's all you. Mm-hmm. There's not a label involved with this.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Absolutely, 100%.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It is kind of insane. Yeah, we definitely feel like a different band from when we first moved to Nashville in 2016 to now. Mm-hmm. A lot of different factors had to do with that. The pandemic had to do with that. Sure. But it's not a pandemic album. It's not that.
Right, yeah.
Which a lot of people have, and props to them. But this was written after is the pandemic really over? I guess not. But when we were out of lockdown and we finished building our van, we were driving around, and that's when we started writing. And then realizing that if it was going to get done, we had to do it ourselves.
Incredible.
And
that's how we started. You know, whatever. I mean, that it feels weird. It feels weird to say to use the term DIY. Because everybody's kind of DIY up to a point until you bring other people on board, and then they're helping you to, make your thing happen. But we kind of came full circle only in the sense that we had a decently extensive team at the label helping with radio and helping
distribution, PR.
Yeah.
We had management. We had a booking agent, but we actually did some firing before the pandemic happened, but then some more firing happened, and then the label got bought out, as most things did. I
didn't know that was the story there.
Yeah, they got bought by Cobalt or something. They were owned by somebody that owned somebody. It's like a giant stepping, trickle down economics over here. It's like everyone owns somebody else.
It's a 30 Rock diagram. Just everything owns it. It's like a vacuum company at the top.
So, that's what prevented from us doing a second album with them.
Well, it seems like it's worked out okay, because One Stop Shop is awesome.
I think
it's still working out, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you're in it now. You're in the promotion for it now.
Correct. And we're only here because we don't have any gigs right now.
I don't got anything else to do.
We're running into the same issue we ran into on the first record, where we put the record out and then can't tour it.
It's a very familiar feeling.
Right now we're dealing with 2 canceled tours for this fall, so...
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's a drag.
Well, I liked your remark about DIY not really being do it yourself. It's more like having a community.
Yeah,
like not
correct.
necessarily
Yeah,
paying a
yeah.
bunch of people to do stuff, but there's a community involved.
Yes,
I
and
like
people
that.
you actually know, people, friends, you know, people you've worked with before.
And we're only saying it. I think we're only saying the DIY thing because we think of what we're doing as still on the same scale as what we were doing when we were signed to a label. So we're like, our output is pretty heavy right now in the sense that like we just put out a record. We're already working on the next one. We've got all these videos that we're doing.
4 videos on our own.
We book our own tours,
Yeah.
but it's not like, you know, they're not like weekenders. Like we book extensive tours and we,
Yeah.
you know, like, so we're doing it on a level where we're competing with other, you know, label sized bands.
Sure.
I think.
Well, it doesn't have to be
you know, that-
competing.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be competing.
Well, that's just what
But
I
on
mean
the
by the
same
DIY
scale.
thing.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's not really, you're not competing in that sense, but you're competing in that there's a market.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, before we dive into what I really want to get into is like a track by track breakdown and like how all that works for the record, like what was the thinking behind it? Because I've heard so much feedback from other people. They're like, this record's wild. Like there isn't anything like this in Nashville. Like people don't write music like this in Nashville.
Absolutely.
Which I completely agree with. Shout out to Aaron Robinson. I don't know if you know him or not, but he was like, this is the best record that Nashville has produced, period. Hard stop. That's it's high accolades and it's not unwarranted. So,
Thanks, Aaron.
So give me just like a quick rundown of where you come from and what's your general story. You say you moved to Nashville in 2016. You come from Boston, is that right?
Yeah.
We both went to school in Boston. Ian's from a little outside of it, but I'm actually from St. Louis, Missouri. So I have no New England in me at all. Very soft, very polite, and and I just went to school up there.
Nice.
Adjacent to Berkeley where Ian went. So I don't have any background in music actually in any way,
You had
shape, or
none
form.
prior?
None. I don't play an instrument. I don't
Awesome.
I don't know any theory. I don't know anything. So
You don't need it. That's
Oh,
Yeah.
but you do.
I know it in my soul. Yeah. Yes. So that's how we met, and then we started Twen and moved to Nashville to do that.
Why did you move to Nashville to do that?
I don't know.
I think at the time it felt like Boston to us, except for a rare few. There's a ceiling there. There's really no music business infrastructure there, and so it's like.
But yet it's expensive.
But yeah, it's
So you get the worst of both worlds.
right. So we just wanted to do the band thing full time. We knew the rent was really expensive while we were living there, and so we're like, okay, well, let's try a different place where there might be some infrastructure there to support us doing this thing full time, while having a slightly cheaper rent.
Yeah. Had you been here?
We visited.
Yeah, we went on like a 2-day trip or something on a road trip. And we were like, yeah, sure.
I must
it was
have,
warmer.
During college, I must have met somebody or something that...
Yeah.
I don't
There's
know.
a long history, too, of people at Berkeley in Boston moving to Nashville. And that's
Sure.
kind of the people we met at first. And we were like, ugh, don't want to know them.
At some point, it was planted
That's
into
why we
our
got
mind.
left.
Yeah. And I had just grown up in New England, so I think I just wanted to try something new.
Yeah.
And at that tender age of whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
And in a way, it was closer for me to come home in
Sure.
this way.
Oh, yeah.
It's only 5 hours from St. Louis. So
It's true. Quick drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ended up seeing a lot more of Jane's family when we moved here. So.
If I recall the story correctly, you recorded like a live set at the 5 spot and put that out as like your first EP. Is that right?
No.
No. Great.
The live EP was actually recorded at our first show in a basement in Boston right before we left.
Oh, okay.
And it was on accident. Like, so our friend Nick Ertman, he just was like practicing live recording. He just liked
He just
doing
threw
it.
some mics up in the basement.
Yeah.
Because like Jane's house and our house, they were all basement venues.
Mm-hmm.
So we would just throw shows, college shows and all that. But this kid just put mics up, recorded it, kind of came out halfway decent.
It was
Yeah.
nice.
Our drummer at the time, Corey, mixed it, and then we put that out. And so by the time we came to Nashville, we kind of had this 5-song cassette.
Yeah.
We put
Well,
it
as
out
like
on
a calling, as something,
Sure,
anything,
something.
just something
Yeah.
to bring to the table because we knew we wouldn't know anyone when we moved here.
Well, it worked out nicely.
It worked out great.
Yeah.
It definitely helped with like touring because that's immediately what we started doing when we moved here.
And you didn't do like another recording, like official recording. Until Awestruck, which was years later. Is that right?
I would have been like 2. I mean,
it's hard to say.
Until it came out, it took about 2 years for that to come out.
Yeah.
Because we were touring so much and because we had to remix it and
overdub it.
And then when the label got involved, that kicked the can down the road another year.
Oh my God.
Oh wow.
Because to sign
Holding
a contract
patterns,
took forever.
Lawyers.
Yeah.
Wild.
And
if
we
you can
just got
sense
put
the
through
venom in our voices about this process.
It felt like we just got put through that whole juggernaut. Well, I'm glad we did because it meant that when One Stop Shop came around, we knew what we wanted and what we didn't want.
Learned a lot.
Yeah.
So we are no longer impressed by labels, and we are no longer impressed by that whole scene, you know? It's just easier to do it yourself in your living room and put it out if you have the facility to do so.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody does.
Yeah, it's true. Not everyone does, and sometimes some assistance helps. As a person that runs a small indie label, I'm nowhere on the level of French Kiss, but, you know, I often think, what does a label bring to the table? Like, I'm literally not doing anything that someone can't do on their own.
Yeah.
Like, you can get your own vinyl pressed, you can get your own digital distribution, you can either hire a promoter or like a press person or just hit it hard, like send a bunch of emails yourself.
Yeah.
I think really, I've never asked this to tons of people because it really bothers me.
Sure.
The answer that they always come back with is just community. Like the real benefit of a label, and I don't know at what scale, like you get money, obviously. There's something nice there. And you maybe get some other bands that you can tour with or other people to like bullshit with and bounce ideas off of and feel supported. Feel like someone's got your back. Like, oh, One Stop Shop's amazing. There's someone behind you saying, yes, this is amazing. I love it. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And that depends on the label because some labels have that sense of community and there's an involvement there. And then other labels are super hands off and they just they just give you the money or they misallocate funds, you know, and they do it they spend money in places that, you know, you maybe wouldn't if you knew that it was being spent.
Sure.
So it could be either way.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think from the outside looking in during that Awestruck era, it didn't show to any of us as fans. I mean, the videos were like unreal. They're so good. The album is so good. The graphic design is so good. I think, Jane, is that your doing, the graphic design?
Yes, that's what I actually went to school for in Boston, and then got caught up in the indie music fervor. But I was doing design for bands, and then
it's a nice overlap, right?
It's actually a great one. And so, that's all of the visuals. It's another way to express, you know, through the music and the art.
Awesome. So you've had all this label drama. You get me to the point where you're putting your van together, which people might not know. You have this incredibly huge, amazing van that you have fitted yourselves, like done the work yourselves.
Every bit of it.
Correct.
There's only one thing we didn't do, which is cut the hole for the sink because we didn't have a router.
But didn't you cut the hole like in the side for a window?
That was strangely easier.
That's wild.
Well, we just didn't have the tool. I
didn't want to buy a router.
Like my tires will be low on my car and I'm like, I don't know how this thing works. I can't fill these tires up.
We can help you.
Yeah, we could definitely help that. Yeah.
So you already had this van, or you were like, well, we're going to be touring. Let's get a van.
That was the
In
goal.
2018, we moved out of the place we were renting, kind of forcibly because we were not. I don't know if it was illegal. I don't know if it was illegal per se, but we were renting a house here in East Nashville with very affordable rent. But we were always touring.
Gone all the time.
So
the whole house.
We were having a hard time coming up with the funds, so we started Airbnb-ing our house, but it wasn't our house. So when the landlords found out at the end of the tax year, and they got their little IRS form,
get out of here.
They said get out.
Oh.
So then we moved all of our stuff into a storage unit, and at that time we stopped paying rent, and we haven't paid rent since 2018. So
and I think that's the only reason why we were able to do what we're doing now.
Okay.
Because if we'd have to pay rent, you know, which is now I don't even know, like crazy high in Nashville alone, you know, we wouldn't be able to afford to spend the time that we do on this project.
Right.
So that helped a lot with like just the trajectory. And then so we were kind of house sitting, dog sitting friends. If they had like a cat that they were going to be out of town for a month, we would stay at their house. Slowly sold off all of our possessions, like furniture.
Sure.
And then at the end of
That took us up to the pandemic.
No, it was right before that I bought the van, though.
Oh,
we had,
right,
saved enough. It felt like the right time.
Yeah.
Sold my other car and got this Ram ProMaster 2500. It's like exactly what I thought would work perfectly to build this camper van.
It's a big van. For those listening, it's a big van.
It is the same van as the Amazon trucks that everyone sees around.
Okay.
I mean, there's a 1500, a 2500, or a 3500.
It's like the mid-size.
It's not like obnoxiously big, but it's
about 8 feet
roomy.
tall
It's
and
manageable.
15 feet long.
Yeah.
You can stand up in it.
Yeah.
That was my main gripe. I needed to have to stand up.
Sure.
Some people do it without that, and I don't think I could. But that was the goal all along when I bought it, to be like, we're going to outfit this, but we didn't really know how we were going to do that.
Right.
And it was definitely a formidable task. Like, we have no experience with carpentry or with electric things or plumbing, nothing. So it was kind of just faith that, like, hey, we're smart. We know, like, the internet exists. Like, we're fine. Like, I'll figure it out. But time was the main, parameter, because we were touring. We were literally touring in it. It was an empty cargo van. Like, we bolted seats to the ground, like, through the floor.
So we did, like, 2 North American tours, like, coast to coast in it before it had anything in it, when it was literally an empty box. There was no insulation or anything. Just with the seats
very
bolted
cold
through.
Yeah,
our poor
tour.
band members, Jeff and Gwen, at that time, they were just suffering.
Hot hands in the shoes, like, just like really Oregon Trail style stuff.
I hope that becomes the episode title. Hot hands in the shoes. That's good. Wrote it down.
Yeah. So we definitely had some hard times, or like just gritty, build up some grit through that. But then when the pandemic hit, we were like, okay, where are we going to be?
So leading up to the pandemic, we did 2 tours.
Oh,
we did
right.
2 European tours. That was in the fall, right before the pandemic. And then when we got back from Europe, and within a week, everything shut down.
Oh, wow.
So we just got back into the country.
Squeezed it in the last international trip.
Great timing.
We have suspicions that our bass player got it in Spain when we were on tour.
Oh, wow.
Got COVID. Because she got sick and had all the symptoms and everything. And then
But we didn't know what it was at the time.
Wild.
Yeah. So then when the pandemic happened, then we finally had the opportunity to actually outfit the van.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the time and the unemployment checks to put
That
into,
helped
funneling it
so
into.
I bet. It's great they did that.
So I think it's like
to not have to worry about like food money or anything,
Yeah.
like while you're literally doing nothing else to make money or just
Right.
building.
Yeah.
It's really crucial, like, to understand that we have lowered our standard of living, essentially, because we don't have rent to pay, we don't have utilities, and we've done that for years before we moved into the van. So only because our monthly bills are so low are we able to do this thing full time.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And most people are not in that position.
No.
Either they didn't make the decisions that would lead,
Or they have exterior factors that prevent that.
100%.
Really.
Yeah. So I think it was like a combination of good luck, good fortune, but also we made some wise
Timing.
decisions in retrospect that allowed us to pursue this full time.
So during the pandemic, you're outfitting the van.
Yeah.
You're learning all this wild stuff from YouTube and just brazenly cutting into your van.
Correct.
And feeling like, yep, we got this. This is going to be fine.
Yeah.
It looks incredible.
It is awesome. We'll show you afterwards.
Yeah.
It's in one of the music videos, right?
Oh, yeah. Correct.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So
Little cameo.
we'll make sure that's linked and people can check it out. It looks fantastic. It's a wonderful looking van.
Thank you, Michael.
Honestly, if I tried 3% of it, it would just be the worst shit show in the world. So very impressive.
Don't know
you
until
all.
you try.
Yeah. I will never try. I promise. So you're saying you started writing the record after that or during that?
During pandemic, I think I was I was trying to learn how to do this thing, engineer and mix stuff on my own. So that was kind of the beginning of my production journey. But we didn't start writing this record proper until we had been in the van for maybe 5 months.
Yeah, I think I had to switch my brain off into a different mode.
Yeah.
Because I was handling a lot of like the systems of the van. So I was like putting together this giant puzzle of how the plumbing and the electricity and how everything was, fitting together.
Sure.
So I like had no space in my mind at all for creative like tasks.
Right.
That was a
one.
full-time gig for 10 months, was building the van.
I can imagine.
But moving out of the van, and then we started traveling and living out of the van full time. And then when we started to really get that under our belt,
Yeah,
then
how
we start
that
writing
worked,
the record.
because that's also an adjustment too of like, okay, where are you gonna? We do have a shower on the back, but like, just where are you gonna park? Like, where are you gonna go?
Sure.
Like, we got a Planet Fitness membership. You know, that's where we take showers. You know, like what's the safety? You know, that's this whole other like lifestyle change as well. So that was probably
I've seen
at least a couple.
Nomadland. It's wild out there.
Actually,
we haven't seen it.
It's good. It's good.
Okay.
It's worth the accolades it earns.
Sure.
I think our experience, from what I know, is a little different than that, but it's not as dire. But it definitely has some overlap.
Nice.
So
then you start writing the record. You're comfortable in the van now. It's a good place to live.
Yeah.
Start writing the record. Are you recording? My mind has never tried to connect these dots, but how do you record a record if you
look
live in
out
a
that
van?
window, you'll see the solar panels on the top of our van.
Yes.
So all the demos that we made, you know, probably the first 10 demos that we made were all just solar powered.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Silly stuff.
yeah, but we switched out everything we had mostly for the most part. You can't make a guitar, you know, smaller unless you want to play a ukulele, which we are not interested in. But most of the other things, like a little
instrument,
a little interface, like a little mic stand that similar to these that we're using right now, that clamp to the table.
Yeah.
You know, those kind of switches.
Short scale bass.
Okay.
Tiny.
You know, and just
small.
And like when we're writing, we just use kind of like a drum loops or whatever kind of like drum machine samples, just to write and just to get, you know, okay, this is about the tempo, this is the groove, blah, 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 and write to it. And we made about 20 demos. We also worked, we were parked outside my parents' house up in New Hampshire, and we also wrote, we continued writing up there, but while still living out of the van. And we wrote about 20 songs. We recorded 15, and we chose 10.
Yeah.
So
there's 5 B-sides floating around somewhere.
Correct. Those may or may not have already been. Some of them might make, you know, either
might be
a
reworked.
Single release. We're sitting on a lot of stuff right now, so
High standards.
I don't know how
That's
it'll
awesome.
come out, but you'll hear it eventually.
So when do you go into like? How do you make the final recordings? Like if those are your demos, are you going into a proper studio, renting time? Are you doing this again in your van, or
so
right now for this one, or
no for
this? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So our friend Nate lives here in Nashville, and he had helped us. You know, he had helped record us some demos. He had a deeper understanding of engineering, and he had some gear that we didn't have. You know, we don't really have we can't fit a whole lot of gear in the van.
Yeah.
Right.
So like we came back to Nashville after we had all that stuff written, all those demos written, and then he kind of helped us, and you'll see him on the liner notes. His name's Nate Grimm, and he helped us with the production side. He helped me learn what the hell I was doing.
Right.
Taught me how to use a compressor, taught me how to use a limiter, etc., etc. So, you know,
he's he's like a self-taught and very like gear obsessed person. So that was like a very helpful addition to what we had going on, which we didn't have like a bunch of gear, you know, in our van. You know, Ian's working out of the box, but him to like come in with these different pedals and things, just to kind of share his knowledge was very fun.
And up until that point, it was just me and Jane writing all the demos and stuff. So then we finally had an outside set of ears. So he kind of acted as like a preliminary producer.
Right.
And we were able to run everything through him. And he, you know, this just wouldn't have happened without Nate. So, but then once he kind of put his mark on it, then I ended up finishing the most of the record out with help from another friend, Alad. And he helped record a couple drums. Nate also records some drums. Yeah. So it was like most of it was done in the box in a bedroom or in a basement at our friend's house.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds so good.
Yeah.
It sounds fantastic. Did you have it sequenced like once you had those demos?
No.
Or were you just like, let's do these 15 and then we'll carve it down and then we'll figure out the sequence?
Yeah. The goal was to have every song like stand alone as like an amazing track on its own.
Okay.
So we had the concept of an album, obviously, since we were writing them all at the same time, but it was never like how to make them fit.
And we actually weren't sure that we were going to do a record. We only ended up like the concept around One Stop Shop was only kind of calcified once we got the Rainbow Kitten tour offer, and we had some prospective finances coming down the pike in the future where we were able to say, oh, okay, we can actually release a record. Because until then, we didn't have the funds. And we were also just thinking we would do a single a month and try and see what happens. Because coming out of the pandemic, we had no idea where we stood.
Right.
You know, we didn't get to tour the first record. You know, the label didn't exercise the second option. And
but you said you did European tours. Was that so like done yourself?
That's true. But the first European tour was before our record came out. The second one was after the. Yeah. The first one was a support for Taco Cat. Second one was a headliner in Europe, but didn't really have a European fan base, so I'm not quite sure why we were sent over there.
It was fun.
I bet. Yeah,
it was
we definitely
great.
got
We love
some
it.
fans, but like it's hard to, especially after the pandemic, it's very difficult to get over there.
Yeah.
So-
it's expensive over there too, right?
Oh
Yeah.
goodness, yeah. You
Yeah.
have to have a lot just for plane tickets alone, and then on top of that, it's a lot of taxes and
Yeah.
currency exchanges. I would definitely do it again in a heartbeat, but it helped. To
And
have,
we're planning something for spring 23 over there.
it helped
but
to have that
Nice.
label fund to do that, which
Yeah.
we don't have anymore.
Where were we?
We are at the record being recorded here in Nashville,
Correct.
and now you're sort of
Oh yeah, we weren't sure that we were going to do a record,
Yeah.
but Rainbow Kitten saw us play at the 5 Spot not earlier this year, and they invited us out on tour. So then when that opportunity came down, we said, okay, well we should have a record out, for that tour. So then we put it out in July. Yeah, and like when we released Ha Ha Home, that was the first single.
Yeah.
That was not, that was back in December of 2021.
right.
Here we are in.
All right, so it
August,
wasn't
September.
even known where it would fit.
Other
No,
songs
we were just
aren't-
putting shit out.
Well, they weren't even completed. Like they were written, but they weren't like finished
is-
recording.
Wild.
We just started
'Cause it fits so
as we
well.
were finishing
Yeah.
shit. We were just putting it out, releasing it. So then, Ha Ha Home came out. We put a video, released it. Next month, we finished Bore You, made a video, put it out. Next month was Dignitary Life. Didn't make a video, but still put it out. So we
Tried
were
to.
just doing it a track at a time with a video, and we were just trying to see where we stood and whether there
So
was an audience for it.
the album itself was still not a formed idea.
We didn't finish it until we knew that we had to press vinyl for the Rainbow Kitten tour.
Which
Yeah.
was
It was all super last
in
minute. That was
what?
in May.
May, yeah, because we were on the West Coast. I remember being in coffee shops, like making the album art, and
Wow.
you
Is
were
this
finishing.
is this making sense, listeners?
It was
I'm
just
sure if it's
well,
track.
when
It
we
is,
when
totally.
we started in the van too, we were just doing things that felt good at the time. We had some deadlines for ourselves, which was making the amount of demos we did. It was very important to us that we made 20 instead of just like doing the first 10 that came out.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad we did that because a lot of the great ones came later. But then to release it, we didn't want to wait on someone else's. That's kind of where this whole process started of doing it ourselves. Like I was like, if we have a group of songs and we bring it to a label, they're gonna say, okay, we can release these in like a year.
Yeah.
And then like what happens to us? We're dead in the water. Like there's
Right.
nothing we can do. Like what are we gonna tour on? Old songs that we're not connected to anymore. Like it's completely out of our hands.
Sure.
And I just wasn't willing to do that again. So that's where just like, okay, this song's done. Like Ha Ha Home just came together first because we were working on it with Nate and it just sounded the best first. Like it was just the one that came together. And then we were like, okay, let's release it.
That's been the most successful song, and we had
first
no expectation for that to be successful at all. We didn't think that was the best song. It was
No.
just the first one that we finished. It was just
We're
the
like,
first one
let's
that
put it
was
out.
done.
Yeah, well, I'll make a video. We used the same director that we did for their Damsel one. We met him through that process, but now he's become a great
Yeah,
friend.
how did you meet him?
Our manager actually found him in Nashville. He does a lot of music video work. He's amazing.
Our manager
Casey
at the time.
Pierce. Yes,
Casey Pierce used to be my neighbor.
Nice.
He used to
Really?
literally live next door to me. He
Oh,
also
wow.
used to work at Fido down in the
Nice.
village.
Oh.
And the very first record that I put out on YK Records is from an artist named Uncle Skeleton, and it has a song on it named Casey Pierce
Nice.
after
Oh,
him.
Wow.
So-
oh my God, I'm gonna ask him about that.
Yeah.
He's never brought that up.
Casey's awesome,
Yeah, he's
and
He's
his
amazing.
talent is unbelievable. Like
true.
his videos are phenomenal. Like
I love working with him, and we loved it when we weren't supposed to do a second one for our first album, but I was like, please, like, I'll come up, I'll do all the work. Can you just show up and like use your talent to
Yeah.
make it good? And then I edited it, and then
wow.
for these,
That was the Holy River video.
yeah, it was the Holy River one, and then for these, I was like, well, he's amazing. We're in Nashville, so we did the video for that, and it's just great because then he lets me edit them, and that's just like a nice relationship we have.
wow, the skills that you all are acquiring through this process is really unfathomable. Like
we
you're
have
a
the
video
time.
editor, you're an audio engineer,
Graphic designer.
well, you're already
He's
a graphic
he's
designer.
a booking
Book our
agent over
tours.
here.
Booking
Yeah, yeah.
agent, like van, whatever,
Yeah.
fabricator.
Yes.
Right? That's incredible. All right, so we're now in the point of your story where you have the songs. You know that you're going to be going on tour, hopefully, potentially.
Yeah.
So you want to form it into a proper record, even though 3 of those songs are done. You felt good about them. You
Yeah.
put them out into the world.
Correct,
So
yeah.
you said "Ha Ha Home" was the first, right?
Yes.
And then "Bore You," then "Dignitary Life."
Yeah.
And
So
then Feeling Love from the Waist Down.
yes, one of my faves.
With the bowling video.
Yeah. That one, 1 and 6, One Stop Shop, title track, and Feeling in Love from the Waist Down might be my favorites, but hey, it's all subjective.
Yeah,
they're all very good. Bore You, Ha Ha Home. They're all great. The Brooklyn Bridge one, it's great. Yeah. Anyway, we're getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So do you want to go through this in possibly the order that they came to fruition? Or do you just want to start at the top and tell me a little bit about everything?
I don't think I could remember that.
Yeah.
So I would say just from the top.
Okay. So starting just at the top of the record, you don't have to tell me the full story of everything, but I'm just intrigued by any anecdotes you care to share. So One Stop Shop for a Fading Revolution.
Yep.
Feeling like a bloodshot curse from the reigning institution. There's always time. Just drink the water in the well, we won't make it. Just put me under the deep spell till I break it.
For sure, this started as a guitar piece, as a finger-picking guitar piece. It was like pretty intricate, and it went some other places that the final song doesn't end up going to. But I remember writing this. We're friends with a band from Florida called Glove. You may or may not know
Amazing
of them.
band.
They're great. And
have heard of.
Yeah. When we first moved into the van, we went to their house in Tampa, Florida, because we just wanted to be warm.
We beelined
like
to
February.
Florida. We love Florida, and we went there immediately.
We parked in their driveway, and I remember this was like one of the first ones. It's funny that it actually became the first song, but it was one of the first ones we were working on then, right? That was pretty early.
Yeah, it was.
In terms of the record writing. I remember we were sitting in their driveway, and I kind of put it over a beat and this guitar part, and you kind of...
Yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do with it at first, but then the phrases One Stop Shop for Fading Revolution
and Bloodshot
Curse for a Reigning Institution came out, and then that's what the whole core of the song
How do you write lyrics? I'm going to get to you on the music, but how do you, or both? I don't know if that's collaborative.
It's changed a lot. It is collaborative at the end. There's a lot of different phases, at least in this process. At the beginning,
I don't want to make assumptions. That was poor of me.
No, it's fine. Long ago, I would just kind of come... I have a different way of... how do I even describe this? I have a different way of writing because I don't play an instrument, and I don't rely on those theory structures of different chords or how you would assemble some sort of song. I'm not singing at a piano or something, but melodies are very important to me, and melodies will just come to me, I guess.
Sure.
So I have recordings on my phone, probably I have over 1,000 that I just, when they come to me, I record them.
Sure.
And then, sometimes it's in different parts where I can kind of see, that would be the verse and that would be the chorus. So that's the hook. I really like hooks. And so that's what happens. And sometimes words are with it and sometimes they aren't. So before, with Awestruck, I would not work on those words. I like those syllables.
Right.
It's just what happened. I wasn't as secure in the process. I thought it was kind of silly because I didn't write on an instrument. I was, putting myself down in that way. But in this way, I just accepted, that's the way I do it. Other people can't do it this way. I'll just do it this way.
Right.
And accept it. And once I did, it was way easier actually to, once I had that melodic idea, to actually just be okay, what words would I want with this, and try to do it immediately when I'm recording it. And that's just makes it easier. And then usually the core of the song comes out of what I'm thinking already, kind of like what any songwriter would be writing about, what they're feeling or thinking or, reading at the time. It just would come out naturally without me really having to put my mind all over it.
Yeah. Jane is plugged in. It's down. It's downloaded.
That's
she
incredible.
Gets fucking downloads. Yeah, they pop out.
Yeah, I don't have to.
It is incredible.
That's
amazing.
About it. Usually, just when I'm alone, I'll just hum or whatever things to myself, and that's what comes out. And then what helps a lot, which I have a problem with, is finishing those ideas, or maybe putting them in a concrete arrangement, or knowing what lies underneath them.
Right.
I don't have. I'm I have bass line ideas, but usually chordal things are harder for me. But bass lines are usually the first thing I think of, and a lot of my melodies become bass lines. But Ian has a great way of finishing those ideas, and then it becomes a song.
Amazing.
Yeah. I was not thinking about those phrases. Those are just what came out with the melody that was accompanying them.
Yeah.
I think what you mentioned before about your friend Aaron saying, "Oh, nobody's writing this," is, to me, what I hear when you say that is, I have a hard time finding music now or hearing music on the radios with complete melodies. We seem to have fallen into this pattern where people write a 4-beat melody, maybe a bar or 2 bars at most.
Yeah.
Their melody ends, and then they recycle it another 2 times, and
Right.
like there's your verse.
Yeah.
But a melody will convey emotion. A beautifully written, articulate melody will develop.
Right.
It'll start in one place, and it goes and it goes and it goes. And even though it may be longer than 2 bars, a 3-bar melody or a 4-bar
Right.
melody, if it's written properly, it'll still be just as catchy as a 1-bar melody, right?
Yeah.
And we seem to have lost the ability. They're nowhere to be found. But when Jane downloads a melody, they're long, articulate, beautiful melodies
Yeah.
that take you places.
Usually very circular as well, where they loop
Sure.
in onto themselves.
Right.
But it's just like, it's something that you would definitely find in classical music. You definitely find it in, say, Beatles music,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Nice and
Sorry.
foamy.
Every beer we've opened today has fizzed way over.
Yeah.
Feels like I'm shotgunning it. Okay.
And I don't know whether all of anybody who enjoys our music has intellectualized it on that level, but I'm certain that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the melodies that people seem to call out to us a lot is like say like baptism. It's like right. That's a
Yeah.
that's a 4-bar melody.
Yeah.
Right? And you're not going to, I want to hear it other places, but I don't hear it. And
Right.
you don't either, because they're not there.
Well, they've documented that as well in pop charts, like in the top Billboard, that there's shortened melodic forms. Like I've seen loads of videos
Yeah.
about that. Like kind of like,
fascinating.
even though I love Billie Eilish, but like it's not very melodic. It's more like rhythmic, or I'm not really sure what, but it doesn't. That's not the meat of the song. Is like the melody of it.
I am also not a musician.
Sure. But you pick up what we're saying.
Yeah,
right?
but I
This
pick up
isn't
what
like-
you're saying. And I don't think I can solve this in the room today, but do you think that comes from the way music is written and captured today? Like the way technology...
100%. I think that technology, as it gets democratized and anybody can make music now,
Right.
Like it's easy to self-produce your own music now, just because everyone can get GarageBand or whatever. Not everybody,
Or
but
you can...
more people can
right,
get
absolutely. I know
GarageBand.
what you mean.
Yeah.
Or like just beat loops and stuff.
Correct,
Like,
yeah.
Like, I need a basis for my song. I will get this loop, and that's my song.
Yeah, I also think that because, where I'm going with fits into that nicely, but it's like, it's easy to make something sonically sound good because of the technology.
Yeah.
You can download a beat and it sounds pretty sick. You think that your job is done.
Right.
Meanwhile, you haven't finished writing the music. And
Right.
because music now like the music being produced nowadays, everything sounds fucking amazing.
Right.
But what's being written is shit. Like plain and simple.
How do you feel about it?
Like people aren't doing their due diligence to finish,
Right.
to refine.
Is that a
I think
pro or a con for you, though?
I think it's a con, because
But
everybody
it sets
suffers.
Twen apart.
Yeah, but it's not about us. It's about like I want to put on the radio and hear a song I fall in love with, and that's hard.
Honestly, I think we're only making music because we want to hear music we like, and
Yeah.
we have to make it ourselves.
I've always wondered that. Do you listen to your own music?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think you should.
We write the songs we want to hear.
Yeah, I think you should. I have always wondered that about musicians, or just being a musician in general. Like, do you put your own CD on? Like, do you feel weird about it, or just
Yeah.
put it on?
No.
I mean, it's
No
obviously
weirdness.
stuff
No.
that you like.
I love
No
Twen.
weirdness
Yeah,
at all.
Twen is awesome.
It's fucking
I'm glad to
great,
hear
dude.
it from Twen. That it's great.
And like, yeah, it's about refinement. And I
Yeah.
think like not enough people are thinking about refinement. It's not enough to write something and say, oh, that's good, let me put it over a beat. It's like, no, rewrite it again, rewrite it a third, fourth, and a fifth time
Yeah.
until you have carved a fucking diamond.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And like we made sure that all 10 songs on this album had depth and diversity to them.
It shows.
And if we had just taken the first idea that came and then said that, okay, that's good enough, it sonically sounds great, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be the record it is. I think it's an awesome record.
It is an awesome record.
Yeah.
I think iteration is really hard. I think we could probably also talk about this for hours and hours, but iteration
Yeah.
is hard because you have to throw things away.
Yeah, correct.
Oh yeah, a lot away, so much away.
Yeah.
And that was definitely hard for me at the beginning, and I think we went through a lot of breakthroughs through starting writing this batch of songs, because it would maybe, hurt my ego a little bit.
Sure.
If I came up with something, I was like, oh, that's not good enough. Like, even if I'm the one saying it, if someone else isn't, like, I'm like, oh, that's not really good enough. I think I can make something better, or a better melody or a catchier melody. And being able to look at your own work like that to make it better is, I think, the most important skill in order to even do that.
Yeah.
Because that's what limits you from looking at it.
Yeah, editing is the worst. It's so hard.
But now I've come to love it. Yeah, I love it so much. And now that's my favorite part about it is, like, does this stand up? And is it like a couple weeks later, do I still like this melody? And if I don't, okay, I can write a new one.
Yeah.
It's in my control.
Are you a baseball fan?
I mean, I'm aware of it.
Do you know who Branch Rickey is?
Nope.
Okay, Branch Rickey is the man who brought Jackie Robinson to the Dodgers.
Okay.
Okay, in integrated baseball. But before that, it was probably in the 20s or 30s, he developed the farm system for the St. Louis Cardinals. So he was an innovator. But one of his big things was that there's quality and quantity. And the idea of having a farm system is that you would have a wider pool to choose your talent from, right?
Yep.
So when we were writing these songs, we said there's quality and quantity. So we just wrote as much as we could.
Yeah.
Right? Without being precious about it. Like, make 20 songs, or we have way more ideas than just the 20. But it's like, and then we were able to say, okay, there's 10. We'll take the 10.
Yeah.
I love that you just use that as a metaphor.
That's great.
We're baseball fans, but
What?
no, it just makes me happy. Yeah. That's it.
It's a great metaphor.
Everyone should know who Branch Rickey is. He helped integrate baseball.
And that's an excellent thing as well,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. All right. So you're talking about the melodies and we're still on One Stop Shop for Fading Revolution. How do the lyrics come to you in this? You're saying that you have, like, kind of sounds that you like that fit within the melody, but this song feels like, I mean, it's poignant. Like,
yeah,
to me,
it's poignant to me as well. But I think when it's happening, you don't have to get in your head with, like, this is gonna be a poignant song.
Sure,
like, that's only gonna ruin it.
Yeah.
So, with those two phrases that came naturally with the rhythmic and, like, syllabic melody that I like that, it had syllables attached to it, and that's just what happened because I think that's what I was feeling at the time. It's like a subconscious download rather than having to use my stupid brain, that doesn't know much. Brains get in the way, and like that logical thinking can be not helpful all the time when it comes to art. So I think my subconscious tells me what I'm feeling anyway, and those are all the things that I'm feeling about now with digital age, making art in the digital age. What, the art and commerce thing that you brought up earlier, like that, it doesn't feel like we're going in a great direction. So that those are all the feelings that came out naturally through that melody.
Yeah. All right. I love it. That's fantastic.
And usually, like, Jane has, I remember when we were sitting, like, you had your notebook, and you're kind of, like, singing, you'll write down what you're hearing, and I'm adjacent to you with my notebook, writing down what I think you're saying.
Ian's a great editor in that way that, like, can help, like, is this line telling it, concisely enough, which is also a editing process.
Yeah. And I remember really reworking the bridge melody, which is the
one shot.
And I remember just sitting there, like, going over it over and over and over again, trying to get it right. And I remember when I finally, like, cracked the code.
Yeah,
it was like,
the bridge was your child. Yeah.
Fucking thing. It was so good.
It's amazing. I am thankful for your insight on that. Let's move along to Ha Ha Home. I do want to talk about art and commerce really bad, but I also want to get through all 10 tracks. So we'll get there. We'll get there. Ha Ha Home. This is the one you released well before you knew anything. was going to happen
At
with a
all.
record. You said December? Is that right?
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
21?
Yeah, it was because we were like, oh, nobody will be releasing music around Christmas.
And they
We'll
weren't,
put
and it
out.
was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best, you know?
It's the only thing out there. It
It's
gave a
all
little bit more
Christmas
space.
music and
Yeah.
best of lists.
Yeah.
So good on
And
you.
it kind of has some Christmas themes, talking about
Going
home. Yeah.
So yeah, what was the recording process for this? It was
I remember
obviously
the
early.
inception of this pretty well because it started with I wanted to put an acoustic guitar because we didn't really use a lot of acoustic on the first record. I remember when we were writing at Ballroom, which was our friend Nate, who we mentioned earlier.
Love him.
Nate and Max, they had this place Ballroom, and I wanted to put an acoustic guitar and do an open tuning and get as big open of a chord as I possibly could, and that's how that acoustic guitar thing started. And then the first thing you sang over it was
No, that's actually you're misremembering. Yes, you are, because I was looking through I only know this actually because I was looking through my memos, combing for the next album, and I have one from 2018 that's Ha Ha Home, me in drums and Ha Ha Home. So the melodic one of Home, I'm coming home so that whole thing was just a melody.
No
and then,
shit.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
Hard
so
to
then
believe.
we just put the two
Proved you
things
wrong.
together.
Exactly.
Okay.
I know. And I have no idea how the chorus came to be. I kept on trying to think of it, but I have no idea.
I don't remember writing
Mm.
that.
Don't know. Couldn't tell you.
That's great. I love it. No.
Yeah,
clue
and that
what
was
happened.
great. There's a lot of like cool sound effects in that, and rewinding tape machines, and like kids' laughter and shit, and that was just fun.
Well, I think that
it
was
just
finally
experimenting.
getting in the sounds and the textures that we wanted on the first album that we were, for many different reasons, not able, didn't have the tools, or
Right.
didn't have the permission, whatever you want to call it.
Weren't
We're
allowed
not
to
able
do
to
it.
do that on the first record.
A lot of this record is what we wanted to do on the first record, but weren't able to.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it kind of, I don't know if you would agree or not, but it feels like the band's sound evolved from the first record. And maybe that's because you were not allowed to do what you wanted on the first record.
I think that's true, and we also had two other people in the band who had to accommodate,
Yes.
which is what it felt like at the time.
Right, that when we changed things,
God bless their
we
souls.
got
Sure.
backlash.
Yeah, more opinions more cooks in the kitchen is always
Twen
harder.
is not a democracy.
And we argue that no band can be.
I think that's probably
It's
true.
better as a brutal dictatorship.
Yeah, but there's two of you that are the brutal dictators. So
But at least we
Yeah.
have skill sets that don't. If I was another guitarist with my own same process,
Yeah.
I think we might have a problem. But I think we fill in the gaps for each other.
True.
that's fair.
So that's Ha Ha Home.
That's Ha Ha Home. It sounds like this was part of the demoing process, and you
For
said
sure.
it was the one that just hit the best
Yeah,
at the
Ha Ha
time.
Home is very similar to the demo. If you heard the demo, it's really just like a less sonically pleasing version of the final product.
More lo-fi.
Yeah.
Didn't know the techniques quite yet.
I didn't know how to gain stage or anything, so everything was recorded super loud and crunchy, like, so it's
So where do
it
all
sounds
the-
kind of punk, but it's
Where'd all the flourishes come from that you want to do? Are these like field recordings that you have? Are these just like, oh, we need kids recordings? I'll go find some interesting kids recordings.
They're just
Like-
ideas. They're just ideas.
Yeah.
And then, executing them.
I mean,
think-
I'm a big
You're a
fan
Beatles
of-
guy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just like
Flutes,
trying to
mellotrons.
Yeah.
trying to incorporate those sounds. It just feels very intuitive.
I always wonder about arrangements
Yeah.
because as a non-musician, I'm sort of like, how in the world do you think of that?
Yeah.
Like I know it's just
Right.
ideas and there's
Yeah.
there's epiphanies and things come to you,
Yeah.
but it's
Well, when you react to what's already, the core of it, the meat of it, and you just
Yeah.
hear it over and over again, you're like,
Yeah.
well, I want to hear this there. I want
Right.
this little line
100%.
here.
And another theme during COVID, when we were building the van, we were getting into all the music we loved growing up, and we noticed that a kind of a theme of a lot of the music we liked growing up is that there's this factor in the music where you're not sure whether you hate it or love it. It kind of confuses you. It kind of straddles a line. You kind of don't know where to put this band that you love from your youth. You're like, on one hand, it's good. On another hand, they're singing like they're,
You're talking about him.
I'm talking about him, Blink-182, like whatever.
I was gonna
Just
say
like,
our youths might be different.
His-
for sure,
yeah.
for sure. 100%.
But him, his infernal
Early
majesty.
2000s music
Yeah.
where you're like, this, I can't tell whether I hate it or love it. And so, for instance, on Ha Ha Home, like there's some guitar lines and stuff that I really wasn't sure if I wanted to put in because it was straddling that line where, and automation, when we get to that, that's dead on what that song is about. It's just like, I kind of want to confuse the listener and make them kind of scratch this, be like, is this hip or is it
Yeah, like, is
really
this even
corny?
cool?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do I like it? or do I hate it? And like, I think if we can meet people there, it's an interesting place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I just hated Blink 182 at that time.
For sure. Oh, biggest.
But you got to remember, I was in college.
Right,
like,
right.
Not great for women either.
Yeah, I was 10,
Yeah.
12, 13.
Yeah, I'm like
somewhere in there.
21. I'm like, this is awful.
Horrible, yeah.
But I listened to my fair share of horrible music when I was just a few years prior to that.
yeah.
It's all cyclical.
Yeah,
It all happens.
exactly, man.
I do love the lyrics to this one. I love the lyrics to most of the record. I think there's some really interesting themes that run throughout it. I'm curious if that's intentional or if it couldn't have been intentional because you didn't have the plan at the beginning. Like, if Ha Ha Home feels just like, I mean, there's lyrics in here about like maybe the emptiness of home, but also longing for it, and like, and that sort of like interpersonal relationships. Like, how did that come to be as a theme through the record if the record didn't really have a shape?
I think it's just living your life, like, because that's what any artist is writing about. That's all they know.
Right.
So throughout all the years that we were making these little like recordings that later became songs, that's what we were thinking and feeling at the time. So I remember coming up with that melody only through the memo, and then it brought back the where we were, and it was, we were living in this recording studio house after moving out of our actual home,
because our friends Max and Nate were
so kind
enough to let us crash,
and we would kind of just cook a lot and keep things tidy in exchange, and we didn't have an actual home, and like what that meant of what we even wanted, because I don't even think we wanted a home base at that point.
Yeah.
That's why we were aiming towards the van, but just what it means. So
Lovely.
Yeah, I don't. The theme of the record is just we got lucky, I guess, that all the songs were like that. They do
they're just
fit
about what we're
together so
thinking
well.
about. They were thinking a lot of
Yeah.
Like what
but-
documentaries we're watching.
I think
Like-
that's a fair assessment. Like,
Yeah.
it's your life, so your life is cohesive. So of course the record's cohesive.
Sure, yeah.
But
Oh,
a lot of bands don't get that lucky. A lot of bands will write 10 songs and you're like, oh, what are these 5 songs
Well,
about?
they just want to get laid. That's why. Yeah.
You're kind of like insinuating it's almost like concept-y, and it's
It
in that
feels
there's a
conceptual.
thread,
yeah, it does feel conceptual. It feels very much conceived.
Yeah.
Like,
But it feels, to me, it feels like it was conceived, but very much on the subconscious level. It was never like a master plan for us.
right.
But it's happening, like what documentaries we're watching or what books we're reading, like all that shit tends to,
It comes out in different ways.
Yeah. Like Brooklyn Bridge, that's because we watch a lot of Ken Burns documentaries.
Yeah.
So like we were watching the documentary on the Brooklyn Bridge.
And then that
was one of
phrase
his first. That
came
was
to
one
me.
of his first documentaries. And Jane just started singing it one day. And it was fucking gorgeous, and I knew exactly what she was going for because we just watched a documentary. So like there was this beautiful metaphor in
Yeah.
the Brooklyn Bridge. But we'll get to Brooklyn.
We'll get to
you're
all right.
jumping.
Dignitary life.
Yeah.
Let's,
If anybody asks, you're just trying to watch the show. And you're not happy now. It's no matter how you try, just another passerby. You are my kind. You are my kind. Our fates are tied. What's yours is
Well, this is an old one of Ian's from his old band.
Yeah, we're about to spill some beans here on your podcast.
Yeah,
that
let's spill 'em.
This is a
nobody knows
this is a
about. Very
recycled
few people-
track, actually. In some there's
Yeah.
new parts that were added, especially
Yeah.
the vocals. But Ian had a song called
Yeah, the foundation of the track had already been recorded in a previous band of mine, and it was like on our breakup record. So there's a version
Drama.
of Dignitary Life called. Actually, I ain't even gonna say the name. Now I'll let people dig
Yeah,
for it.
we'll dig
Should
for
they?
it.
Yeah, because it is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
up there.
Yeah,
It's out.
but if people can somehow find my old band, which is very much available on the internet, and
this is a real
Yeah, yeah.
sleuthing
Yeah,
exercise.
yeah.
I like it. And I will solve it this weekend. It's going to be great.
Somebody's bound to. So there's a track, and like the chorus is there, the hook is there. A lot of the chords are very similar, but I knew like I wanted more out of this song because
Yeah,
it
'cause
didn't
it's
get the
good.
life that it
Yeah.
deserved in my old band. So when I told Jane like, hey, I want to do this, and I started like, kind of like demoing it out, and then Jane started. I remember like the first thing she just came right out with like, dignitary life. You know,
Yeah,
like that
it came
came
with the
like right
phrase.
fucking one piece. I was like, dignitary life, what the fuck is that? And then like, and then we just worked it. I remember with you working that verse melody over and over again. That's a great example of a complete melody.
Yeah.
It doesn't just repeat itself. It's like it has a whole arc through the verse, but it's still catchy as hell.
Yeah.
And listening to a lot of Oasis at the time, which
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
us too.
So just wanted a really like easy, big rock song.
Crowd groove rocking in an
Yeah.
arena song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that one does it well, I think.
I like hearing that you had that in mind when you write it, because you do hear songs that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
feel like, oh, this one
Yeah.
is meant for live.
Yeah.
Like it works
Yeah.
great in the as a studio recording, but it will blossom
Yeah,
once
yeah.
it's played live
Yeah.
for sure.
It's very fun live.
Yeah, it's cool that you know that going in. Like as you're crafting it, you're like, oh yeah, this one's gonna be good.
Yeah, right. We don't always do that. A lot of times it's more just kind of like stream, just whatever happens. But that one, and maybe that's just because it had existed in a previous incarnation. But like, yeah, there was intentionality behind that one.
Cool. Well, I hope your old bandmates aren't upset about it. But.
Fuck them.
All right, moving on to automation.
Just say no to what you want. Give it time. Next thing you know, that's what you dream of peace. Just to pass the time, gotta make it shine. Next thing you know, that's what you dream.
What can you tell me about automation?
Vocal line first. It was going to be called There's a Place first because it started out with There is a place. I can tell you what you want. And it was very, I like a lot of 70s and 80s funk. And I feel like it has a very heavy funk. I like the sillier funk too, like a
Cartoony.
cartoony stuff going on. You're like Parliament. So it's very silly.
Sure.
But it's
Bootsy's always a good time. It's
Yeah.
always hilarious. For sure.
So I that's where that line came from, and then it was just the difficulty of how, as us Twen, are going to pull off whatever the hell this melody is.
Yeah.
So that was started with the bass line, obviously, because that's the only way you can do it.
Well, I remember you singing to me this was again at Ballroom, and it was written at the same time as as the foundations of Ha Ha Home. It was
See, I
like
don't
the
even
same
remember
writing
that.
session. We did both of them. But it was like, Jane just goes, there is a place, and I just played that on the bass. Boom, 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 boom. And I just like the rubbery, cartoony bass line, you know, that kind of just slides around. But this is one where I was like, this doesn't sound cool.
This is not cool.
This doesn't sound
Yeah.
hip with like what a hip rock band.
This wouldn't play in a coffee shop.
yeah.
Like, no.
Right.
This isn't
But it's
playlist material.
cartoony. It's cartoony as hell. I think of it in the same vein as the song from our first record called called
Honey
Honey
Smacks.
Smacks.
Yeah.
And like, I like that our band is able to do a song like Automation, but also a song like whatever, pick anyone, because
Right.
they're nothing alike, you
Right.
know, and they could be completely different bands, and it's a diversity that I don't see a single other band now that has it.
And then I always
Oh.
forget where the bridge came from, but I'm sure it's when we were writing last summer with all the rest of them and demoing them
Yeah.
out. Because
Yeah,
I'm
there was
really
that-
very proud of the bridge because
Yeah,
I
so
like the lyrical content.
That's a
of
good
that
example
the best.
because you came up with the verse and chorus melody first, but I came up with the bridge first, and then you wrote to that.
Yeah.
So we kind of swapped.
Flip-flopping.
Yeah.
Flip flop.
Yeah. So
It's
I
just like-
I just love the sentiment of that song probably the most on the record, like the content of it, because that's what pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and coming out of pandemic is what I think we at least politically or feel about the world the most. Is we were big Andrew Yang fans when he was running, about the tech and how it interferes with politics and the way things are. Information is.
You're in a safe place. I'm far left guy over here.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's just there's a lot of things that I think I've even it's hard to even talk about because I feel like I've let go because it was so I had my hopes up so high and then they were crushed so low. So now I'm very pessimistic, but I did have hope at one time.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of really good ideas of how you could turn these things in the right direction. And honestly, I think we're past that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
You could at least know I think what would have helped. But
yeah, I mean, I think politics are a fucking huge boat, and they just take forever to move.
Yeah.
Like to
Yeah.
turn something around takes sometimes a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating as someone living in that lifetime. And you're like,
multiple lifetimes.
like, how is gay marriage just recently?
Yeah,
You know,
it's crazy.
like it's insane.
But even just how things are done, and I think that's why we liked Andrew Yang so much.
Yeah.
It's just like the organization of the system itself that we refuse to redo, which I think everyone on both sides could agree upon. And I think that's where that automation kind of, you know, content comes from, is like things that everyone feels that we for some reason can't change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know there's people out there that will laugh at us and give us shit because they did when we expressed any interest in Andrew Yang. But what Jane and I got out of that was that there was like not like his whole mentality was kind of like a non-acceptance of the shit that you're handed, and a problem solver's mentality, and a very holistic problem solver's mentality where you can do something new, you can do something different. You know, a lot of times problems are created because you have bad incentives or no incentives, and that if you change your incentives you can fix problems, you know?
Right.
So it's like it was a very what I
Without
would
rhetoric,
call a holistic view.
no identity,
And people would
like it's just about
people would
Right.
hear his
Problem
his
solving.
you know his universal basic income $1,000 a month or whatever, and like,
hey, but we
shoot
all
it
got it in
down.
the pandemic, and that's the only reason why we
Yeah.
were able to do the things that we were able to do. So
Yeah,
I think
right.
we felt that in a real way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he has a ton of great ideas,
Yeah.
undeniably.
Yeah, right.
No politician is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And
He's
like,
not
whether
perfect,
you should,
but he has a lot of great ideas.
Yeah, right. And I'm not saying the guy should be
No.
fucking president, but I'm saying
We're
I love
past
all
that
these
at this
fucking
point,
ideas,
yeah.
and it kind of revolutionized my approach to how I look at problem solving issues.
Yeah.
You know? More so than Bernie Sanders did. Okay, anyway, keep going.
Yeah.
Automation. That was automation.
All right, Fortune 500.
Live a simple life to feed the appetite of a love affair. Do I owe you one thing? Do I owe you one thing? Do I owe you one thing? I have nothing to say to you. Owe you one thing? Do I owe you one thing? Do I owe you one thing? I have nothing to say. Good job, you are the best. You made it to the top. Oh, the rest look down. You made it up. Good job, you are the best. You made it to the top. Oh, the rest look down. You made it up.
Oh, ooh,
Right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, no, it is, but
Yeah.
I can't remember. I don't remember. How
Fortune 500 was a song called Change the Rules, also written at
Right.
Ballroom.
Okay, yeah,
owned by
that's
Max
what it
and
is. Yeah, that was a whole other song that I think actually was kind of.
It had a whole
cool at
different
all.
set of
It was
lyrics,
a little too moody. It
whole
was
different set
too
of melodies.
melodramatic,
Yep.
and then
Same music, entirely different vocals and lyrics. So Jane and I rewrote that multiple until you came up with Fortune 500.
Yeah, and that's I guess, you know, an example of the editing process is like I had, you know, this music that I like, these chords, these like, you know, rhythms, things that Ian was bringing, and I had written something for it, but I was like, you know what, actually, I don't like this. Like especially with time, like it didn't hold up at all. So I was like, okay, all of that gone.
Wow.
Completely in the bin. I'm gonna now react to this piece of music like it's the first time I've ever heard it. What is the best way?
Did you develop that skill, you think? Like, how can you take that stance of like, I'm going to forcibly listen to this with fresh ears?
I don't
That's a
know.
really
I don't
good
play an
question.
instrument. I don't play an instrument. So I
But
guess
still,
I've
you
just,
knew the song.
Yeah, completely. And I sometimes, you know,
Wow.
I hear the other melodies, and that sometimes is like a bad thing because I forget what song it was, but I would sometimes get confused of the old melody and the new one.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, that happens sometimes because I do that a lot where I'll be like, actually, this melody isn't good enough. But, you know, I don't really know. It's
I
just
mean
out
that
of-
as a compliment, by the way.
Okay.
That's an incredible
Yeah.
skill to be able to, like, if I'm doing graphic design, where I feel it's sort of similar. You, like, iterate on something, and it's very hard to be like, okay, I hate these ideas that I did. Let's do something new. But, like, you're looking at the same canvas, and it's
Yeah.
like, how... Ugh.
right?
How am I going to do something
Very
new?
perceptive of you,
Yes,
Michael.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
relate to that too, doing design as well. I don't know, with music it's easier. I feel like there's a
Fascinating.
part of my brain's in the dark about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I remember when you came up like at the bridge, it goes Fortune 500. You know where the
that,
title
that phrase
kicks in.
came out.
And but that was originally the first line in the song.
Yes.
You know, the beat kicks in, jum, jum, jugga, jum, Fortune 500, and we felt like that was coming on too strong.
Ways too
like
strong.
To have that be the first
Because we
line.
did it live,
It was
I think,
like cheesy.
for a whole tour,
Oh, that's right,
actually
yeah.
just to try it out. And we were like, ooh, people don't understand what is happening here.
On the Nude Party tour, we did it, and it was getting weird
It was like
vibes,
very
yeah.
like, I don't know, like theatrical, like
Yeah,
if you can
it
see me
felt like
doing jazz hands right now, like and it didn't really work. So then that was another rewrite where I was like, okay, that's got to be now like the core of the song or the chorus, and I need to write a new verse melody to set you up for that isn't as melodically intense.
Yeah.
And we were doing that until here you go. This is a glimpse behind the curtain. We were staying at a dog sit. We were dog sitting for somebody.
Which one?
The one with Ollie. Ollie's a really
such a
cute
good
puppy
one.
that we,
Oh yeah.
how's
That late?
for? Yeah, because that's where you got the marble counters, and you said marble and golden rings.
Gold
baby.
rings, yeah, I know.
So like that's how that first, it was like
Oh,
a
yeah.
boomer house. It was like their retirement
Yeah, it
home.
was really
and it was kind of
nice.
like
We spent a lot of time in nice houses that aren't ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That came together pretty late then. So that's like, I don't even know, 4 to 5 iterations of that song. But I'm really, really happy with how it came out. And a lot of people bring that one up, even though it wasn't a single. And it's hard to say when people listen to the album which ones they'll be like, I love this one.
Right.
But a lot of people have said Fortune 500. And I get why, because the ending, you really...
It climaxes with like the rounding vocal chorus.
And I think it's funny that when you're saying something almost sarcastically, like the good job, you are the best, you made it to the top. Like it's kind of sarcastic, but it actually still works to make you feel that way of like, yeah, good job. Like,
Right.
yeah, like I want to be told good job, even if it isn't a sarcastic voice.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like I feel it too when I listen to it. Words have power in that way.
It is one of the beautiful things where we didn't necessarily expect that one to be a fan favorite, but you get surprised. And that one is kind of turning out to be a fan favorite.
Did you work out any of these other songs on tour? Like, have prior iterations where you're like, oh, we have been playing this, but we want it to be different?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't expect you to remember every set you played.
We have it written down in a spreadsheet.
Well,
Nice.
I don't think so. I think that might be the only one.
Yeah, because we didn't know. And
Maybe
sometimes
Sweet
you only-
Dreams in the Parking Lot.
Oh yeah.
But I think now that they're released, and the other thing too is that we haven't played a lot of shows since it's been released. So when people know it, they react much better to it than if they're hearing it for the first time.
Right.
Which is a very new experience for us as a band in general, because we toured much more before we had any recorded music than we have after.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, the future is going to be very interesting for you on your
Yeah.
next tour. Let's go with Feeling in Love from The Waist Down.
Would tell me anything wasn't true. I find a new way to smile. Now time to live in denial. Can't wait to pick up the habit. Being in love for the first time. I've got a thing for you. Now one else can help me through. It would be a lot to learn. Feeling it up from the waist down. That's right. Feeling in love from the waist.
Tell me all you can tell me.
This was a song from college, from our first band when we first met. Yeah,
Oh, which one?
many years ago.
Oh yeah, my college band, which was very silly. That was the first, like how I got into music.
Dorm Room Rockers.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people, no one was going to music school. We had a violist, not a violin, a viola, and it was very fun, very silly. And I don't even remember what song.
I
it was.
just remember there was a melody from that because I was playing bass and it was doo 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 doo. It was that bass line that I came up with when we were probably 19 or 20, and like we were just revisiting old pieces of music, and I remembered this melody.
We were harvesting. I view it
was
as like
just- yeah.
organ transplant style. Like we were like, I know this part of the song's good, so I'm gonna just get rid of everything else and
Yeah.
build it upon this.
And the riff that's doo 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 doo. That used to be over a major key progression, but then we put it over the minor key bass line.
And that's what the viola was doing.
Yeah, I remember we wrote that in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, when we were visiting my cousin Megan.
And bringing it back, Blink-182 was, being played out on the
I found a new
speaker.
way to smile.
Being played a lot, so that's what came out. I was like, it's got to be like that, and
Yeah.
it came out even way whinier than how it ended up. So I had to reel it back a little bit
Yeah.
because I didn't want to hate it later.
Yeah.
Incredible. I love the call and response vocal lines in this one. I mean, I think that appears a lot throughout the record, not in a bad way. Is that just having fun, or is there like narration and like a point to?
Wait, like the call and response and like the good God, like those?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I don't know. That's having fun, I guess so. But I sometimes that's a fault because I fill in the melody too much and don't leave enough space. And I think that's where those come from, where they're like little tags or little things. And usually they don't have words attached to them, but these did because they were fun.
Yeah, for some reason, I remember the Good God because I was thinking of James Brown, where you go, Good God.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking Good God.
And I wasn't even thinking
hoorah.
about that at the time.
Hoorah. Yeah.
There's also like shit, right? Isn't there like a...
No, just
that's on Bore You.
It's on Bore You.
Oh,
but like
yeah.
throughout the record, there's other like shit.
Yeah.
Like, other...
The low. Well, I can go low. I might as well go there.
Yeah. I don't know what it was about this song. There had been multiple singles. I think this is the last thing you released prior to the album being out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And from my experience, I was already like, okay, I love the singles. These are great. The videos are great. And then this was out, and I was like, this record's going to be insane because to me, everything that I know about the record release cycle is like, what are your 3 strongest songs?
Yeah, right.
Put those 3 strongest songs out.
We could not pick.
And then put an album out.
I think any one of these songs could have been singles.
No, I agree.
Could have been Shania Twain about it and put out 10 singles.
Oh, that would have been fun. Yeah.
But it's pretty rare, you know?
Yeah.
And it's, me complimenting you again. But it was just sort of like, holy shit, is this...
Yeah.
Does this stop? How is there a 4th song that is a single that is like an introduction to a band? Like this feels like a song that you would put out right away to be like, look how awesome we are. Like this is a great song, but it was your 4th single and like right before the record came out.
Yeah, only a month or something.
Yes, you're great. I like your attitude about it. It's good.
Well, you gotta believe in yourself, or like, what's the point?
You do.
Yeah,
That's true. All right, Long Throat.
Vocal melody started with the dreams, the very unearthly note, and a little bit more, melodramatic. Very old. I think 2017 probably. And it was just hard to know what to do with it. But then I think, I don't know, something about the bass line, made it a little bit more strutty, a little bit more like rhythmic, which was the beauty of doing it. It felt like starting over again and doing a lot of things that I couldn't do before, because a lot of the melodies are they need to be supported by the right type of groove or rhythm, or it makes me feel like I'm singing it wrong. I don't know how to describe it. That would happen a lot of the times in our first iteration when we thought it was a democracy. So like I would bring a melody to the table, but then it would be completely changed by what the drummer wanted to do. And I was like, oh, like now whatever I'm singing sounds very not good with what you're playing. Sounds wrong. And now I want to write a new melody on top of what you did. But I'm like, but the melody I had was really good. So like, why can't we just make that work better? Have that starting place to support
the song. If you're not honoring the song, then you're
supporting what you're bringing to the table rather than like completely just overhauling it every.
Right. That sounds like a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Because what are you gonna do? When are you gonna finish a song? I don't know. So this was very freeing because with a freaky melody like what's on Long Throat, it needed to be supported in the right type of groove or beat, and we did that by cycling through a bunch of grooves and beat, a bunch of beat loops, because we didn't have a drummer with us or anything, and there's millions available to you, so we went through so many different ones, and then Ian tried different bass lines with them, and then that's how that came.
There were multiple demos of this that are very different, though it's the same song and the same key and everything, but it's like we struggled with this one. And I remember we have gotten a lot of nice compliments on the production on this one, probably more than any other song, and there was a concept behind the production in that in each different section of the song you would be walking into a different room. So in other words, like the intro drums had to have a different flavor than the verse drums, different than the chorus drums, different than the bridge drums, and so if you listen to it, like there's many different sonic things happening, but it's all anchored by a repetitive bass line.
Right.
So you don't feel like you're getting fatigued or that you don't have something to hang on to. There's something very concrete to hang on to, but meanwhile the scenery is changing.
Yeah.
You know? So like it was great.
Which
I love
you
that
sometimes
one.
can't do
Yeah,
if you
right.
have the ego of a drummer and you're, you know, that you
Sure,
have
yeah.
to, you know, like say, hey, this
Sure.
needs to sound
Or a
different.
mixing engineer. Like the fact that I didn't have to appeal to anybody to fucking do that and mix it that way.
Right.
It was fucking liberating.
I'm sure.
Right.
Or a label telling you,
Yeah, right.
a little too
Yeah.
weird. Don't do this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's great. I feel like your independence on this has really, once again, it's proven to be quite an advantage in the whole thing.
Indeed.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right. You want to keep moving? Any more anecdotes there? All right.
Let's go.
Sweet
Let's go.
dreams in the parking lot.
Time to time, I like to go out, maybe just to see who's there. I'll be the one to move back again. Sweet dreams in the parking lot, feel like you don't belong to me if I go to get back.
This used to be a song called Pretending,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it was guitar based first because
Yeah,
it's very complicated,
for sure,
beautiful, finger picky, pastoral melody. And
Yeah, that's just like typical of the thing that you might find me if you stumbled upon
he's
me.
a finger picker.
Playing around the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came up with that one a few years ago at my parents' house on New Year's morning. I think I was home visiting for Christmas.
Oh yeah, because it used to be called New Year's Eve or something.
I think it was
Or
called New
January.
Year's morning because that's when I
yeah.
came up
Oh.
with it. And yeah, and it was great. It just kicked around for a long time. And then I accidentally kind of came across the bass line. It's a really hip bass line because the beat is displaced. Bum, bugga, ga-dum, bum. Bum, bugga, ba-dum, bum, boom, bum, doo-doo-da-doom, doo-doo-doo-doo-doom, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doom, boo-doo-doo-doo-doom.
Please keep going.
That's a complete melody.
Acapella version, yeah.
Come on, it could have been easy to repeat the first time, the first thing 4 times, but it develops. So,
And that
then-
used to be another song similar to Fortune 500 where I wrote something for it and I was like, this isn't good. So rewrote the whole thing.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
turned out better.
I'm only singing because you got 2 beers in me.
Oh, sorry, but not sorry, because I love that.
Okay.
That might be my new ringtone, what you just did.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. All right, we'll keep going. We've been
Yeah.
here for a minute, so I don't
Yeah.
want to keep you too long. Brooklyn
through.
Bridge, I think this is one that I've seen cited as like, I don't know, like a line in the sand is like something very different for the band.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you already gave us a little bit of background that this is a Ken Burns inspired tale.
Yeah.
But it does feel different. It maybe feels a little more raw, a little more like opening up yourself. Twen often feels like, please forgive me here, but like
Yeah.
Ooh, can't
these alien musicians that are making this wonderful, beautiful music that's otherworldly, right? But this feels like bearing your humanity in a way that's just a lot more raw to me. To me.
All the hours I spent on the Brooklyn Bridge. You know it takes time to build up these things.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
no,
God, I hope I didn't say
Mike.
something offensive there. But
No, not at all. I love that. Yeah, I think the approach to lyric writing is not usually like it's like conceptualizing personal things, but not actually like confessional style or details, that maybe
Right.
other people would mention in a song of like the sweater you wore, like that kind
Right.
of thing. I don't really do that. But this
We had just gotten back from visiting old college friends
in Boston. Yeah, and Boston
Yeah.
can be a little bit of a triggering place for both of us for different reasons. But we did have bands prior to this that broke up in dramatic fashions,
Yeah.
very dramatic fashions. Friends, friendships lost, and I think that's why we're so adamant that like a band isn't a democracy, because we've had the failures of that system happen so like aggressively of the confusion that when you're not talking about like, well, what am I expected to do and what are you doing, or like who's the boss here, like what's going on, what are the roles, what am I expected to do, and what's going on. And if you don't talk about them, then your personal relationships of working on a creative project like that can just completely explode. So when we go to Boston, all of those things kind of come up because we moved, shortly after, and that kind of in a way wipes your memory. You're in a different place with new people, you can kind of forget about it and shelve it away for trauma to come back later. But that, I think, it was just about like not knowing how to let go of someone because we also have the kind of a different experience of other people where we move away, a lot of people move away to different places, but we tour so much, and we have since like moving from Boston, and we would be there every couple months, so it's like, oh, okay, hi, like let's meet up, or they would come to the show, or like old people, right? You kind of are left in contact with people that maybe you wouldn't stay in touch with, but they're there because you're there. Why would you not, meet up with them? So it's like that line of when to cut a relationship off and when not to. Not really romantic, but friendships, which have usually been my most brutal things that have blown in my face, are friendships, not romantic. So that's where I feel the most.
Yeah, thank you. That very much feels aligned with the sentiment of the song and the just the emotion of the song.
Well. I remember the conscious attempt when we were writing this to do, like, we were really, I think, fed up with being a indie psych rock shoegaze band, insert hyphenated genre band. And we were like, we can write songs and melodies as good as anybody, but it's probably not being communicated because everything's shrouded in chorus and reverb, and we're like
the stylistic
being an indie
choices,
cool band. So we're like, fuck it, let's write like the most I don't mean it in a negative way, but like, let's write a big song that anybody could sink their teeth into. Right. And like Brooklyn Bridge was like our first real attempt at that. And I remember rewriting it quite a few times before you came on Brooklyn Bridge. You had a few iterations.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We workshopped it for sure.
As always.
Yeah, and I'm super proud of that. That's an example of nailing a song sonically. All the tones came together so well, and there's nothing I want to change about it. You could most of the time you don't hit it 100% on. But that one I'm like, oh, the production, we fucking nailed it.
That's great.
So I think it conveys what it needs to.
Yeah, and I think it definitely works exactly as what you're talking about. Yeah. Like I never thought of you as indie psych rock shoegaze
the
band.
Blogs did.
And maybe We Own This Town wrote about it in that way. I do not want to go back and look, but it's very easy to throw a band into a genre. Like, you got to classify it somehow if you're writing about it or talking about it. Like, you have to give people touch points, you have to give people like
an anchor.
Where are you coming from with this? Oh, they're a psych rock band, and then that immediately becomes like, well, not really. Like Awestruck and this, definitely not. I would never call that a psych rock band. I might have. But I would never call that a psych rock band.
But a lot of people
it's like, I don't even think of like Tame Impala as a psych rock band. Like, it's in there, but it's not.
People just write words on paper and
it's because of this anchor, right? And as like music reviewers and that whole realm, you have to come from this place of giving someone commonality, and it often oversimplifies bands in a bad way. It's maybe a little lazy. I do this constantly, and I call myself out for it constantly, but the whole idea of recommended if you like, like, if you, what does Twen sound like? Well, if you like boom 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 boom, then you'll like them. Like, and that immediately like creates this little prison for expectations. But I think
what are you gonna do?
This song helps.
I don't see a way out.
Bust out of that and like break out of that and evolve. And it's nice to hear that you did that intentionally.
A lot of George Harrison slide moments on that too.
So.
Can never beat that. All right, last one.
Woo.
Bore you.
But if it's up to me to hide shit, then I'll be more than meets the eye.
The oldest one, I would argue.
Yeah.
Because we were playing that back in, I don't even know what, 2018, 2017.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically in a Florida storage unit playing that song.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah. On all of our Florida tours, we would play that. That was a vocal melody, similar almost in the way of like Automation, where it was this kind of this like funky vocal melody, not knowing what to do with. But that was all the way back when we were a 4-piece theoretically, and that we had kind of brought that song together, and a lot of that stayed. But then I think it was coming. The message of the song is a lot of insecurities, I would say, and I didn't feel that way anymore, and I had overcome a lot of those things by the time that we finished it. But it is such like a fun, crowd pleasing song because of the beat and the groove. So I was like, how do I make this not a self-defeatist song anymore? And that's really where the bridge came out and the counter melody that is on the choruses as well. Trying to combine those feelings of inadequacy with overcoming it, which I think everyone can relate to.
Absolutely, for sure. Also, this is like incredibly distinctive look for this like single that comes out. You have this like insane makeup. It's kind of like what is the like Swedish metal?
Corpse paint.
Yeah, it's like corpse paint. It looks amazing.
I like metal a lot.
Yeah, very cool. I think another aspect of this whole thing, and I know we're running low on time because we've been here for a while, but there's just a fascinating visual representation of the band too. Like all of the graphic design is really top notch. The videos are just like, you clearly understand how you're getting this out into the world. Like, I don't know how long that took, but it was like, oh, this video is perfectly edited to be an Instagram like snippet. Like it zooms in, like the focal point is in the center. You're not having to do like some weird extra panning to go to the right to get to stuff.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a way that's like demeaning, but it was just very intelligent and very like very clever to be like, okay, we're going to make this so that when it ends up as an Instagram story, it's going to have the impact that it needs, but there is a full frame to it, you know?
And that kind of happened on accident, but it wasn't. Once I was editing it, I think I realized that, which is the joy of editing it yourself, which I kind of don't think I would give away at this point. That one actually did better on social media than it did on YouTube, which is, you know, the format you would think that's what you're aiming for a music video. But I really like designing for the parameter that you're in, and I think you can understand that as a designer. Sure. You need to know the dimension. You need to know what colorway you're going into, like what are the, you know, is it CMYK, is it RGB, like what are you doing, like, and all the dimensions, like it's countless dimensions of like all the social media formats. So you have the videos have a certain parameter versus the photos versus what you do on Twitter. Like, it's just like so much to hold on your head. And I like to start with those first. So like knowing what, and now it's completely changed. I'm a little annoyed by it because you really can't do a horizontal format if you're wanting like everything, especially now because of TikTok, is all of that vertical, you know, 16 by 9 dimension, and everything, all the action has to take place in that. Before, I think using a lot of really low cost materials, say with like screen printing or other things, of it, like trying to embrace and make the coolest thing that you can with your parameter is what I've tried to live the ethos by with the design of like making what's the best you can make with these parameters. Yeah. So
I mean, restrictions often breed like extra creativity.
Completely. So. It just puts, you know, a line down, puts a dot down that you work around, and that in a way starts it.
Well, you've done an incredible job here. I've taken up a lot of your time. I still have like a billion questions. I hope I can get you to come back to talk to Devalued, another podcast on We Own This Town, to talk more about the marketing and the art and commerce collision. I'm just happy that I got to talk to you about the record. Like, I think it's a great record. I think you've done a phenomenal job, not just with the music, but also with the marketing and just the whole thing. It's like mind-boggling.
Yeah. You know, we need to hear that.
We have no one else telling us that.
God damn, it's
great.
You know,
it's really great. I had Mary Mancini in here just the other day. We're recording a podcast because the Lucy's Record Shop 30th anniversary is coming up. We played Twen on that episode, which will come out. Who knows when this episode will come out, so I don't know what time is, but around the time of the Lucy's 30th anniversary, I played the Twen song. I put Twen song on there, and I was like, oh yeah, they're the best. She's like, who are they? Oh wow. So like, I'm spreading the gospel as best I
know
can.
you are.
Thank
That's
God,
why
yeah.
I wanted to come over and talk to you. Yeah.
And I really appreciate that you stayed Nashville based. It's extremely meaningful as someone who kind of grew up here, that bands like yourself who are making music that is very antithetical to the Nashville sound, which I find very boring and pretty gross.
People just need to finish their melodies. That's all.
People need to finish their melodies for a songwriter's town.
Yeah.
The laziness
Yeah,
is really
driving
not
me
great.
crazy.
Yeah. But thank you so much for
thank
joining me,
you.
for talking to me, and for doing everything that you do.
thanks,
We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we're done. All right. That was amazing. Thank you so much for listening to that. And a huge, huge thank you to Jane and Ian for joining me and sharing so much great insight about that record, One Stop Shop. Next episode, I'll get back to the playlist of great local music. My backlog is immense. I have so much great music to play with you, but One Stop Shop deserved its own episode. I've been wanting to do that for a really long time. If you want to submit some music for future episodes, hit us up at WeOwnThisTown on Instagram or Twitter, or email me directly, michael@weownthistown.net. If you aren't subscribed to this show already, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It is very appreciated. And lastly, many thanks to Upright T-Rex Music for the music bed playing underneath me right now. Find them at utxmusic.com. Take care of yourselves. I'll talk at you later. Bye. You're talking about how you did this record because you had a tour.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, we'll make a record because we have a tour. That's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And then that tour didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's got to be infuriating.
Well, we knew it was a risk, but
Right.
I don't
take
know.
risks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Everybody knows that Twen is risk takers.
Yeah, we've jumped out of planes. You know that?
We have.
No.
We got
We've
paid in
we've played
skydiving.
gigs for skydiving twice.
They're crazy.
So we
Wait.
we
They
played.
love to party.
Let's back
Yeah,
up
yeah.
a second
Okay,
here.
sure.
Explain how that works. What do you
Okay.
mean?
Well, I'll tell you, Michael.
What did they call them? They were like parties that they would call them.
They were like
remember?
bonfire.
They had like a name for it. They had like
It's like a
lingo.
private party that hires you.
No, it's like the people that work at the skydiving.
So Skydive New
Place.
England.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Everyone knows Skydive New England.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
famous.
Well, it's the same. I believe it's the same company all around the country, but there's just different locales for it. So it's
Yeah.
like Skydive Tennessee,
Right.
You know, whatever. And they Skydive New England. They throw just private because skydiving. How do you say this? They take place on like campgrounds almost. Like all the employees
fields.
live there, next to an airfield. And they kind of like live there all summer or all year, and they're kind of like hippies, and that's how it works.
Adrenaline junkies, kind of like ski bums, but they're sky
This
bums.
is such
Right.
new news to me.
Okay.
I'm loving this.
Right. So they'll have like end of whatever the equivalent of end of semester party is, and they invite a band, and then instead of paying you, they throw you out of a plane. So we've
So you
done
got
that
to
a
do
few
it.
times.
Oh yeah, Ian's done it a couple times. I've only done it once,
think I've
but I
done
would do it
3
again.
times, yeah.
Yeah.
Terrifying or fun?
Fucking
Or both?
incredible, man.
Both. Mine threw me
Incredible.
out backwards, which was a funny joke
Yeah.
at the
I mean, it's tandem, right?
Yes. But they threw us both out backwards, and you're supposed to go forward. Like it was just.
Wow.
But I remember it fondly.
Yeah, I think I did indoor skydiving once.
Nice.
Very different.
Very
Yeah.
cool though.
But it was fun. It was fun. Gatlinburg. Check it out.
Oh,
Excellent.
Yeah, we've been there.